This is a story called Shadow Totems by Donleona, also known as Peaceful-Blu, from the subreddit Short Stories. The sky was completely clear the day all the black pillars started to appear at random. I remember it like it was yesterday. The shade began to cascade over my vision as if a cloud had spawned from nothing. A cloud it was not. I was nearly crushed by one of the columns that decided it wanted to occupy the space. Strange as it was, I didn't hear a thing when it landed. To me, it placed itself slowly and softly. To everyone else, the ground shook. Some even reported losing their footing the instant it touched down. There are those who swore up and down they heard church bells ringing, and some, only a few, said they felt an impending sense of dread. At the city council, shortly after the first cylinder fell, we started calling them totems. But they don't look like totems to me, and for some reason I can't figure out what my mind recognizes them as. So for now I keep changing what I call them. Since I was the first to encounter one of these things, the city council asked me to speak about it. But when I did, the overly religious zealots demanded I quit my ramblings, despite them requesting my input. I know it was because they believed I would confirm their theory of divine intervention. That lot couldn't see past the unexplained and chose to delve deeper into their faith. They even started to pray about it, subsequently abandoning their former pantheon, and that had a response from the polls. Once they started, the totems began to resonate and pulse as if drawing power from the prayers. To me, it looks more sinister the more they pay attention to it. Its shadowy disposition became darker, more obsidian and solid. The devout even said it changed form. It started to resemble the old guard in their previous worship, something about it speaking to them and glowing with a holy aura. Anyone who had a glimmer of faith found themselves praying at the makeshift altar. The scientists were no better, just as overzealous in their pursuit of understanding. But they took it a step further, trending into the unknown with no information other than their own imaginary findings. As a hypothesis, one of them decided to test their theory of touching it. Of course, there was not one amongst them that advised against this line of reasoning, not that their curiosity would let them. One said touching the pillar may give them more information and insight, and just like before, their attention to the continuously appearing structures made it pulse and vibrate to the same thrum, a rhythmic, hypnotic beating. The scientists found nothing from touching the black. To them, nothing changed except their ever-increasing curiosity towards the monuments, but that's not entirely true. The people who came to touch the pillar started acting strangely. They started behaving similarly to the religious, but with a scientific twist. They kept touching and whispering to it, whispering what I can only assume were prayers, but it sounded much like formulas, maybe even longing to be part of something greater than themselves. Each person who would join in this endeavor followed the same fate of being goaded into touching the pillar, flocking to it like birds or moths to a flame. This carried on for quite a while, several months in fact, until one day a group of these information-seeking lab coats decided a single person touching the rod yielded nothing, a foolish way of thinking, especially unsure of what you're measuring. As soon as their hands touched it, they were shrouded for a brief moment and released. When they turned to face each other, their blank stares and shadowy faces became a definitive placemark for those the totem had blessed. Blessed is the term the faith called it. Eventually the city was covered in these stakes of darkness, vibrating like beacons. Anyone who would enter the city would succumb to one of the various sites. Of course, there are those who haven't become enthralled by these incubators of curiosity, but they still only see them as mere beams, as they always have been, immune to its enticing call. But they don't really matter in this circumstance. However, I can see the many faces that have come to adore in their cylindrical surface. Truly, they are starting to resemble the moniker they have been assigned. They look at peace decorating the very thing they sought to understand. Though I still don't care for the name, it is starting to grow on me, and it sounds more fitting by the day. The only beings truly weary of these things are the animals that seem to steer well clear. Their instincts are very much still intact, unlike their bipedal counterparts, which makes things easy. More people are inclined to come to a safe location, and the only threat to them has become mute. It is astounding how easy it was for the people of the city to become entranced by the unknown. They follow in the footsteps of their predecessors without hesitation. I suppose the creators of these things would be proud of their creation for completely and utterly halting the free thinking of an entire society, or rather relish in their experiment yielding such exquisite success. What a wonderful sight it is to witness my creations working as intended. Never would I imagine they would work as well as they did, I say to myself, smiling. The scientists wished so much to be part of the experiment. I was all too happy to oblige. Their knowledge of this planet was a welcome commodity. It's strange, this time the first to fall were those of the faith. Usually scientists always lead the charge, partly why I became one myself. When I first became part of this experience, I was filled with such dread about having to deal with the inhabitants. But they were so simple in their thinking, that a small seed planted sowed so completely, so fully, that the fruits of my labor were this abundant. Sir, the experiment is nearly complete. In a few hours we can deploy the rest of the instruments to the rest of the planet, my assistant says, approaching from behind. Good, I say, excited with the results. We will have to find a way to shorten the gestation period of the tool, somewhere around a month or so, scaled for each planet. Yes, sir, my assistant remarks. Oh, have you come up with a name to put in the report? Because you are cutting it quite close. It is really unprofessional to keep calling it various names. I know, you're right. Why not call it what the locals have been calling it? I guess it is a very apt name, no matter how minimalist it is. Put it in the report as such. Understood, sir. The planet fell just as quickly as the estimations predicted. At first, they were intrigued by the sudden appearance, and because no destruction befell their normal civilian lives, they ignored it until it was too late. The notes I would give to my superiors are as follows. And just like that, the little experiment comes to a close. To think, a spacefaring, conquering society would invest in the science of doing so. A peaceful takeover has never been done. But today we witness a new horizon of subjugation, in part led by the least authority in our society. The unwitting but willing participation of these planetary beings is staggering. Never would I have imagined leading an expedition of planetary dominance by way of social experimentation, truly a noteworthy mark in my portfolio. May the next planet follow in their prior's footsteps, a new dawn in the wake of the Shadow Totems. P.S. I would like to discuss a name change for the mass production unit. Sincerely yours, Dr. Dust, Bastion of Planetary Oblivion. That was a story called Shadow Totems by Christopher Donleona, also known as peaceful-blu, from the subreddit Short Stories. Thank you so much for watching, and we hope to see you next time.